NTB auction oversubscribed by nearly 250%. Greif Nigeria to delist from NGX. Welcome to Market Polls on News Central in partnership with Nairametrics. I am Perpetua Fasami Peter, standing in for Joanna Mustafa. Let's begin with our top picks from global stock market news. And I'm going to the global stock market news. Adobe shares have dropped following the release of an outlook that fell short of investor expectations for its AI-driven tools to start generating significant revenue. Despite Adobe embedding its proprietary AI technology, Firefly, into flagship products like Photoshop and Illustrator, investors remain anxious about the company's ability to monetize these innovations. Adobe's fiscal fourth quarter sales guidance came in below Wall Street estimates with a forecasted $550 million in new digital media recurring revenue compared to the $561.1 million expected by analysts. The company's stock fell 8% in pre-market trading. AIICO is riding high on optimism. The company forecasted annual revenue to reach $104 billion by fiscal 2029, driven by growth in its cloud infrastructure business. AIICO also raised its sales outlook for 2026 to $66 billion, surpassing analyst expectations. The company has gained ground in generative AI workloads with notable customers such as Rika and Elon Musk's XAI. AIICO shares surged 5% in extended trading, further solidifying its position as one of the best performing software stocks this year, with a 53% rally year to date. And now we come closer to home as we take a look at trading day on the NGX. And looking at trading day on the NGX today, the all-share index advanced by 44 basis points by close of trading today, sustaining the gains from Thursday. And this further cemented the ASI on the 97,000 psychological mark. Is the ASI on track to get back to 100,000? Maybe and maybe not. Time will definitely tell. Now for top gainers, we have Flour Mill, Cavertine, ETI, Artibrisco, and UPDC. Now, ETI and UPDC are the only two that were not on this list yesterday. So yesterday, we had the other three also on the top gainers list. For top losers, we have Dark Communications, Deep Cap, PZ, Custodian, and Mark Nichols. And now to top movers, we have Japan Gold, FBN Holdings, Zenith Bank, UBA, and ETI. And of course, when you look at all of that, with the exception of Japan Gold, all other top movers here are from the banking sector, and that tells you something about that sector. Well, very quickly, let's go to currency now. The Naira closed 1,655 Naira, 5 kobo against the dollar. Talking about the Ghanaian cedi, that was 15.63, and you can see that's right, that's 15.69 rather. And of course, the South African rand, 17.74. You have the Moroccan dirham at 9.79, the Egyptian pounds there. And of course, you have the Kenyan shilling also right there, telling us how it closed against the dollar today. Well, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we have a very first conversation. Stay with us and don't go anywhere. Glad to know you're still with us. Now to the conversation. The Central Bank of Nigeria is witnessing a surge in demand for government securities as investors seek safe havens amidst economic uncertainties. This is reflected in the recent oversubscription of Treasury bills. And on the other hand, the corporate sector is facing challenges. Greif Nigeria PLC, a manufacturer of steel drums, is set to delist from the Nigerian Exchange due to financial difficulties. This decision comes after years of struggling with increased competition and a stagnant market. Azeez Lawal, Managing Director, TrustBanc Asset Management Limited, joins me for this conversation. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Right, I believe you have seen the result of the latest Treasury bills auction. What is your takeaway from it?
Yeah, thank you. It's expected, actually, the fact that the stock rate dropped, right, and is dropping for the fourth time. The projection had always been that from the second half of the year, inflation will begin to decline, right, and that was what we saw as for the July numbers. So as soon as that happened, of course, the next thing is now for rates to begin to recede. Don't forget that the hike in rate trajectory that we witnessed was because of the attempt of the CBN to tame inflation. Now that inflation looks tamed, the expectation was that from the second half of the year, rates will begin to recede, and that's what we've seen from the auctions. Thank you.
All right, you said inflation is tamed. Is it really tamed, or that's what it appears like? Because before now, we all were thinking, disinflation has set in, and then for some months, we're having month-on-month decline before this final one, and all of that. So we're thinking, yeah, we're getting close. The base effects and all of that have already taken effect. But here we are with the hike in the price of premium motor spirit, and we do not even yet know how high that will go. So have we exited that particular season?
Yes, thank you. I mean, the concern for the latest hike in PMS, right? It's a major concern, especially when you're looking at the fact that the hike is about 50% increase. So that is strong enough to re-energize inflation. But again, we will not begin to see that impact until one will see September numbers in October. So what is still most likely to happen is that the August numbers that we will see next week, inflation will still possibly go down, because the impact of the hike that we are seeing in PMS, in price of PMS that we are seeing now, we will not see that until October numbers, right? So and that's significant, really. It's enough. It's enough to get everybody scared, because if you look at the daily consumption of up to 50 million liters daily, you multiply that by roughly 300 naira. That's about 5 trillion naira that is leaving the hands of the household and moving directly to government, right? So, and that moving directly to government is supposed to be a positive, because ideally, when government is able to commit that kind of savings, right, because it's a major subsidy saving, if they commit it into infrastructure over a long period of time, you expect that the situation of the people will get better. But I mean, we've not seen that from the savings that we've seen in the last 1 year from subsidy. So we can only hope that that will take shape this time, so that the sufferings can be, to a reasonable extent, reduced.
Well, what's your outlook for the MPC meeting? Of course, we'll be having the announcement by 24th of this particular month. What's your outlook for it?
Yeah, the expectation is still that, likely the CBN is still likely to hike rates by at least 25 basis points. Yeah, so we are not seeing a pause yet. We're not seeing a pause yet, even though analysts are now divided. Maybe possibly there may be a halt, right? But there's also the strong position for there's also strong point for a possible 25 basis points hike. But if they will reduce or cut rates, that's not in the conversation at all, at least for now.
Okay, so back to the Treasury bills. Clearly, we see a 248% oversubscription, but it's definitely not as much as the one from previous week, where we saw over $1 trillion subscription. So does that in any way suggest caution on the part of investors?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. Yeah, not really, right? Particularly if you look at it from the context of typically Treasury bills auctions coming every 2 weeks, right? But there are some, exceptional periods where maybe to align the calendar, right, where you have auctions coming back to back, right? So you can interpret the last auction, which was on 11th of September, right?
Yes.
You can actually interpret that last auction as majorly the bids of those that were not able to take, that did not win at the auction of 4th of September. Right, so if you interpret it from that angle, you'll see that it's still reasonably oversubscribed, but not necessarily. In fact, it's of now you now have investors also that window for extraordinary yield from T-bills may be about to close, so let's rush in, right? So what we saw at the last auction is more of a reflection of feeling the beat of those that lost at the 4th auction, not necessarily a cautious stance from investors.
All right, so let's look at the stop rates now. Stop rates sort of declined across all tenors, and while true yields remained attractive from 17.36% to 22.84% across tenors. Do you see this continuing in the near term, considering inflation and other macroeconomic indicators that sort of come to play here?
Yeah, thank you. So what we've seen in the last four auctions now is that rates have receded, right? Have been receding, having reached as high as 22.1%, and we are talking about July. Last week in July, it got to 22.1, and since then we've seen like 20.9, 18.94, then the last one 18.59. So the expectation is that rates will possibly continue to recede, but largely that will depend on what the secondary market is saying, right? Currently, secondary market levels is around 18.4, 18.5%. We've also seen levels around 18.6%, right? But the thing is that we still see room for more decline in rates before the next auction, and that will shape the outcome of the next auction. But the stance for now is that, I mean, rates will possibly continue to recede.
Well, if you were to advise an investor, what would you say? Would you tell the person to look the way of equities? I mean, let's take a look at these two. Let's make a comparison of the equities market and, of course, the fixed income market.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lot in one, right? But typically, when we talk to investors, right, I mean, you want to ask them, what's your investment objective? What's your risk appetite? All right, and how long do you want to stay invested? So by the time you compare to these two securities, for someone that's risk averse, right, they will still stay with the treasury bills, right? But generally, well, looking at the season that we have presently, I mean, particularly for the equities that are paying dividend, you can look at the top tier banks, right? We've seen Zenith do one there. I've seen GT do one there. Depending on your appetite and your how long you want to stay invested, you may take some investments in the equity space as well, right? Also, times like this, if you want to stay invested in the fixed income market, what we'll also tell you is that when rates are going down in fixed income, you lock in for long, right? Typically, that's what you do, because you know that if you're locking at 18.59, for example, you're locking for the next 1 year, for example. Even if it's fixed deposit, if you're locking for long, you will enjoy that long lock-in, right? Compared to if you do 30 days, if it matures at the end of 30 days, what it means is that if rates are further declined, the new your rollover will not be based on the new rate. But if you had locked in for long, you enjoy that falling rate for a longer period.
All right, let's move on to the second conversation now. How would you evaluate the prolonged decline in Greif Nigeria PLC's stock price since its listing in 2011? I mean, it has lost over 50% of its value. What market forces could have contributed to this sharp decline?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so primarily when you list on an exchange, right, on any exchange for that matter, whether New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, right, it's more of a platform for visibility for you, and more of a creating that opportunity for your shareholders or investors, providing that platform for them, for the shares to be liquid, such that for those that want to trade or sell the shares, they can sell, right? That's a major advantage for listing. It's not like listing of your shares, because if you list of your shares, you still have to go back to your factory and go and do business, right? It's not like the exchange is going to go to your factory and go and do the business for you. You still have to go and do the business that will guarantee your performance, right? It is your fundamental performance, your business performance that will now reflect in your share price. So the fall that you have seen with Greif is not because the company is listed, but rather the company has been recording relatively poor performances, right? And like you reported, because of business challenges. So it's not about the exchange really. It's about so the decline you have seen in their share price is a reflection of the poor performances we've seen with their businesses.
Interesting. You know, they also talked about certain challenges that they had, talking about competition and other things. So does that paint a broader picture of what is obtainable in that industry, in that sector? Let's just take a deep dive into that sector in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, so largely, right, a lot of companies, manufacturers, traders, a lot of them, right? You have major challenges, really, particularly around material acquisition, right? So these are realities. We've seen those with FX challenges, but what we have even seen with Greif is the fact that like significant decline in revenue, or like significant decline, and this as we've seen this across their performances from like their 2020. If you compare their 2020 performance to 2021,
right,
like drastic, and it's not even a reflection of current economic challenges, right? So when you say competition, yeah, I mean, we've seen in the same industry, right? We've seen
Mr. Lawal, I'm afraid that we have to go now. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts on market.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's get a glimpse of African markets, and when we return, Frank will be joining me for Market Versus. Stay with us. Glad to stay with us, and you're watching Market Pulse. Well, it's Market Versus with Frank. Frank, you have the floor.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to Market Versus, your go-to segment for head-to-head comparison of some Nigeria's top-performing companies. I'm Frank, and today we're shifting gears from the usual banking sector. We've been dwelling in the banking sector for a while. We're shifting gears. Something equally important is the insurance sector. And we'll be taking a look at two different companies from the insurance sector. We're talking about AIICO Insurance and Custodian Investment PLC. Both companies have had an outstanding year so far, and they've been making significant rounds in the market, attracting investors' attention. And let's dive into the numbers. Let's see a little bit of the performance. First up, it's AIICO Insurance with a staggering year-to-date share price increase of 65.22%. AIICO has proven to be a formidable player in the Nigeria's insurance market. What's driving this growth? That's one fundamental question we need to ask as an investor. It's a combination of solid fundamentals, smart investment, and consistent return of shareholders. We're seeing shareholders coming back to the market. AIICO has also had a steadily increase in its presence, making key adjustments to its portfolio to better serve Nigeria's expanding population. From a profitable standpoint, we're seeing that AIICO Insurance has been focusing heavily on providing innovative insurance products that cater to both individuals, corporate clients, which has driven its premium income upwards. And this combination has combined this with a strong year-on-year growth in its profits positions, and it positions the company as a leader in the sector. And let's talk a little bit about Custodian Investment PLC. If you're looking for a company that is pushing the envelope in the insurance space, I think you want to consider Custodian Investment space. Then the investment, which is focused on the lower echelon of the society, with an impressive 91.89% rise in its share price year to date. Custodian, Custodian is not just a strong performer, but is a symbol of innovation in the insurance industry. We're seeing them innovating themselves and trying to make sure they stand at par alongside its equal. Custodian Investment has diversified its offerings across life insurance, pensions, and asset management. This diversification has helped Custodian maintain a strong growth trajectory, backed by a focus on customer satisfaction, operational efficiency, and the investors are literally particularly drawn to its attractive dividend yield and robust financial performance, making it a stock to watch closely. It's something you want to take a look at. But then let's also take a look at what is really the verdict between both companies. Both AIICO Insurance and Custodian Investment PLC have a strong market performance this year. They've catered to a significant different niches within the insurance sector. AIICO focuses on premium income and premium clients. And you're seeing Custodian also trying to make sure they do the same to the lower echelons of the society. We're seeing a bit of stability and growth between two companies. And if there's anything I'm going to leave you with, is to make sure you do your own research before investing in any of all these assets, because they're doing amazing numbers. It's a very, very great year for both companies, and they're doing investors proud. They're making investors proud in the market. What's your take about both?
Well, absolutely. When you talk about an over 90% year-to-date share price performance, I think that's a good thing you want to look at. And then strong fundamentals, I mean, that's what it is for me. Remember, while I was interviewing Lawal, he talked about how that you don't just list on the NGX and go to sleep. No, you have to do the work. And so when you see companies that are doing the work, I mean, investors would definitely, literally gravitate towards them. So if you ask me, strong fundamentals and handsome returns for investors, those are the two things that I do not joke with.
A lot of work behind the scenes.
Of course, they really have to do all of that, because that's what will keep us coming. We buy the news, you know. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing that important information with us.
Thank you, Perpetua.
All right. That's our offering for today. And this wraps up this segment of Market Pulse. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And of course, do enjoy the rest of the day. I now leave you with International Index. I am Perpetua Fasama Peter, standing in for Joanna Mustafa. Bye for now.